already. It's a bit of a change in our weather. I don't know how long it's going to last, though. I think there's still more cold fronts coming. We are at 9:31 now, and we're going to have the session shortly. I'm going to give it another minute or two. We've got quite a bit of people coming online as we speak, so I'm going to give it another minute or two. We've got Terry as well. Terry, how's Joburg looking at the moment?
Also fantastic. Thanks, Rose. The weather is nice and sunny, so yeah, all good.
Have you guys had warm weather for a while now, or is it just like this week?
Yeah, it's actually on and off. We had warm weather for quite a while, the last 2 or 3 weeks, well, 2 weeks, but we had a lot of wind. Well, not your wind, but wind for us, yeah, is if it's stronger than a certain k's an hour, it's for us very strong. So yeah, we had some wind and 1 or 2 cooler mornings, but other than that, fairly nice days.
Yeah, we had a serious cold front last week, and then this week seems to be a lot better. Today seems to be exceptional. I think the weather forecast at 24 degrees. So I think most Cape Townians are ecstatic that we're going to have a little bit of warm weather. Like I said, I don't know how long it's going to last, though. Just another cold spell, and then it's all dropping again.
Yeah. I hope it lasts through the weekend. Usually when the weekend comes, then the cold comes, and then in the week it's beautiful weather again.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So anyway, I think we're going to start off now. It's 9:32. I've seen more customers come on board. So welcome to everybody that has joined. We've been running a series of these workshops together with Terry Ingleton. Terry is a EUC specialist engineer with VMware. And we've been running a series of these EUC sessions, which we cover mobility and various other aspects of the end-user compute layer. And today we're doing the third in the series of webinars. It's the last one. And this one is on Workspace ONE Intelligence, and it specifically covers things like insights, automation, and analytics. And hopefully it will give you some insight as well as to what you can do in your organization in terms of your management of your environment. So if I can ask Terry to turn on his video.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go, Terry. Well, thank you, Terry. Thank you for your time today and for the effort in terms of the preparation. And thank you to VMware for being the sponsor as well. And Jolene certainly for arranging all of this. So if I can hand over to you, Terry, and ask you to talk us through some insights here.
Fantastic. Thanks. Let me just share my screen. Great stuff. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's up.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Feroz and First Technology for the opportunity to have a chat with you and your customers around our EUC offering. As you mentioned, we had a couple of these before. We started with the user experience, then we had the IT experience around modern management and management as a whole. And the third portion is Workspace Intelligence, or the intelligence analytics, as you mentioned, analytics, insights, and automation, which is quite important. We do have a fourth component, which is the desktop virtualization and application publishing, but we can at some stage maybe have a look at that. We found that a lot of our customers are moving in that direction, especially with the pandemic, but we'll see how that continues. So as you mentioned, my name is Terry Elkington. I've been working for VMware now for the last 10 years. It's in the end-user computing space, and it's a privilege to be able to present to you guys. So if we look at, let's dive right in. If you look at the dynamics around the market that we see globally, and even in our region, not just South Africa, but even in the Africa region, up more north, is obviously there's a huge shift in working from anywhere, and I'm sure you've heard so many times now the new normal. All of this have been imposed on most countries work from home or be isolated and so forth due to the pandemic, and until everything sort of stabilized, hopefully it will. So yeah, there's a huge shift in working from anywhere, and the application proliferation due to that is also quite large due to the fact that people are using more software as a service-based applications, different types of applications, not traditional Windows applications anymore, but moving towards a SaaS approach, a software as a service. Yes, native as well, and also mobile. Mobile became quite big around providing functionality to users on any device, and specifically the mobile devices. But you still have those native applications as well, and that's what I mentioned, the publishing of the applications out your data center. But then, the rise of modern management also has been quite significant as well. And when I say modern management, is not the traditional old PCLM tools that you have in a distributed environment in your offices, where you can Pixie boot and build and have a base image, but standard base image for various different component or different models. That we've seen has been going quite dying a slowly death due to the fact that customers or organizations want to be a lot more agile. And it becomes more and more difficult, especially around the patching, especially around the newer versions coming out, application changes, to keep those images up to date and to do it in that way. And also working from anywhere, as I mentioned, really makes it difficult for you to use those traditional PCLM tools. And that's why we had that modern management session as well. And that device complexity, it speaks for itself. So many users are now been given the choice of device they want to use. A younger generation, maybe for mobile devices. Old oaks like me, you still use my laptop and my MacBook. So there's a huge, not a gap, but a huge variety of devices, and it becomes really complex for IT to manage and to know what's happening out there, to know who's doing what applications are there, and so forth, to try and keep tabs on everything. Not invade privacy, but sort of just keep tabs on what's happening with your business, with business data and devices accessing your business data. And that slide that I just put up now speaks for itself around the distributed work that comes with a lot of challenges. From VPN issues connecting from externally, where VPNs aren't scaled, couldn't scale quick enough or can't scale quick enough. And VPN comes with its own issues as well with regard to putting your devices on VPN. Potential malware can traverse across the VPN. But then as it shows there, the different types of applications, the different public clouds that's available these days now. Must we use Zoom? Must we use Teams? The SaaS applications. Office 365 has been there for a while. And then the traditional stuff and all, that data center that a lot of customers still have as a core of their delivery of the applications, that all of that needs to access that. And yes, we do have the hybrid scenarios now where data centers are being shifted to the public clouds and have a hybrid on-prem and public cloud. That needs to be taken into account as well. So it's really it's becoming a sort of a nightmare for IT out there, and try and keep users happy as well, but also IT happy. One of my family members is a rep, and he complains continuously to me that his company is locking down his laptop so much that he can't use it so much for personal use. And I try to explain to him every time it's for your own good, but it's also the good for the company. Yes, maybe they're overdoing it a little bit, but there are rules and regulations that need to be followed if you want to, keep your business safe, especially with ransomware and cybersecurity. It's ridiculous these days. So rather be safe than sorry. So the challenges faced by admins, not users at this stage, but admins, is insufficient incident detection and remediation. They can't quick enough pick up issues, maybe pick up malware quick enough. User experience issues where users, they got used to the device driver for audio crashing, or a video driver every now and then crash, or maybe there's a blue screen of death, in some cases, or there's a slowness in starting up. Some users will complain about it, but a majority of users will sort of adapt and try and say, well, we work now from anywhere. I suppose we need to adapt. So there's a huge issue with regard to that, and that visibility that IT is lacking from a user data out there, and data consolidation, and also user or device models and types that's out there as well. And that last portion, that, as I just mentioned, the pressure to improve that employee experience. If you don't know what's happening, typically always execs are saying, well, when IT execs report back to Exco, potentially saying, well, everything is running fairly smooth, but things on the ground is not always, that doesn't always get through to the right people, and people will get used to it, and they just work around it. But that's a huge concern, and that needs to be addressed as well. What we see that a lot of customers are doing, or organizations are doing with their data, to try and get this all remediated, or get a better environment for their users and for themselves, is they will typically manually export data from different data sources. Maybe they've got point solutions that actually, collect data. And then it will, now we have to potentially export it and import it into a database or into another BI tool. Well, there is some automations around that, but still the point is that there's distributed systems out there that needs to do that. Then the correlation needs to happen. Sometimes there's manual work that needs to be done, not real-time data. And we do have partners also in that field, Splunk, and as it mentions there. And then they need to visualize it. They visualize it with maybe a tool like Tableau, visualize it out to the IT management, or maybe to this security SOC teams, and then manually calling APIs to take action instead of automating stuff. So now we need to fix that. So let's manually do that. So all of this can potentially, well, not potentially, but the risk of human error is quite large in this as well. And you miss stuff. You might have a exposure in your organization, and you only see it 2 or 3 months down the line, which is common. We've seen it before, and I'm sure you've seen this before as well. It's really trouble. It's a huge trouble, or a huge headache for IT admins, because when they pick up something too late, it's really difficult to come back from that and firstly get your user base back stable again, get them satisfied, and then also to remediate those issues. So what we've done at VMware is we've seen this with customers. We've done surveys over the last couple of years, and I'm sure all vendors tell you that. But we've really done some surveys with not just in the US from our company point of view, but also in Europe as well. And we've done 1 or 2 in Africa as well. And we found that the customers actually want a digital workspace firstly, but secondly they want to be able to have these functionalities available on a scalable level, or on a let's put it on a way that they can consume it whenever they need it. And we broke it down into a couple of solutions, or not solutions, but a couple of iterations or editions of our platform, a digital workspace platform. Firstly, we got our standard edition, and we have an advanced edition with a couple more features. Then the enterprise edition that actually brings in the analytics and insights and automation really to life. Yes, we do have insights and analytics in the lower versions as well, but the real proper insights and analytics and intelligence typically we get with our enterprise edition, but we can add that intelligence component to our other editions as well. If a user just got a MDM use case, a mobile device management use case, but they want to bring in that full intelligence component as well, then that can be added as an add-on as well. And today, I typically want to just talk around that intelligence component, where we do mobility analytics, desktop analytics, multi ecosystem that we have out there, well, integrating into a multi ecosystem, vulnerability management as well, which is very important, and then that automation component that I mentioned, which is really important around trying to get your business as slick as possible, your organization and your IT as slick as possible, and because the world moves at a rapid pace. If you don't move with it, you're going to fall behind. Automation is really, really key, and it's not just in our end user computing space where automation is really showing up, or has been been promoted by VMware over the last couple of years. I mean, it's in the data center space hugely being adopted as well, and even in the container space from a development point of view. So automation key, really, really important. So what does Workspace One Intelligence deliver? Integrated insights in what's happening, from a complete visibility into what's happening in your organization with regard to applications, user identity data from users, application data, device data, and it provides that analytics around, yes, you got the data now, but what do you want to do with it? Now you can start analyzing what is the trends around people upgrading, people applying patches if you do not force patching, or what is the appetite for users to download shadow IT applications, because you might pick those up on your devices as well. And then the BYOD, bring your own device scenario. Those devices that access your network, that you're allowed to access your network from a bring your own device, are they compliant? Not to say that, if it's a BYOD device, you're not managing that device, you're not taking over the device or pushing down stuff to the device. But you at least want to have your users register the device so that you can at least see what is out there and what you're facing with. And then that automation component to bring in that multi-platform automation capabilities across all the different platforms: iOS, Android, Windows, Mac OS, Linux. Very shortly, more around Linux as well, and also even Chrome OS, to ensure that you have that powerful automation in place, or make use of that powerful automation so that you can you can streamline a lot of tasks and ensure that your environment is compliant. Use cases that we see typically for Workspace ONE Intelligence, it should be actually quite obvious, but that digital employee experience is something that is really important, because we moved into a digital world. People consume various applications, as I mentioned, from various devices. That experience that they have really needs to be analyzed as well. And there's a lot of players in the market that does this type of thing. Lakeside, Nextthink, and come to mind, which is partners of ours as well. But VMware, over the last year, specifically the digital employee, or year and a half, digital employee experience, dipped our toes into that and said, well, we do have the insights now. We do have the devices reporting back, applications and everything reporting back. Why don't we just make use of that and see what is that employee experience? And that will bring a lot of insights into the IT department to say, well, we thought everything was fine, but since we released that latest version of application X, we've seen that our audio drivers trap. Let's dive a little bit deep into that. Let's see what is the trend. Is it specific devices? Is it specific models? Is it a specific OEM that where this occurs on? Or even maybe a specific patch level or operating system level. So those are the things that's really important for IT to be then they can be proactive. Not to say that you immediately will fix it, but at least you will be able to see what's happening. Start fixing it. Yes, there might be some remediation steps already out in the communities for this, or there might be a patch that's coming down the line or something that you need to configure. And you can tell your users, look, we know about this issue. Be proactive. They will feel that we've been looked after, because IT is actually seeing that this is happening. We don't have to just sit back and take it on the chin every time it happens. Zero trust, security, and compliance is really, really a non-negotiable for a lot of organizations these days. Zero trust has been out there, or zero trust, the themes or the phrase zero trust has been out there for quite a long time. And what it means, in my mind, what it means is the fact that least privilege for a user to access your internal or your applications or your organization's data and applications. First, make sure the user is as devices compliant. Make sure that his ID is known, and that he actually can authenticate with the correct credentials. And then also, is his device not been scanned? Has it been checked out for vulnerabilities, risks, and so forth, and also his risk score. Take that into account as well. So a user might be a fantastic worker, but he might be open to, or not really paying attention to, phishing attacks. And you might want to pick those type of things up with intelligence as well, to say, well, user X, his user score is maybe medium because he traditionally opens up these phishing attack tests that we send out through to our end user base. And I know not everyone does it, but it happens quite often. We have it quite often in VMware, where they send these out. I've been caught once with that. To be honest, I'm not speaking from a high and mighty position. So until you learn how to pick up these things, it's difficult for end users, and especially users that's not really into the cybersecurity thought, or their way of working is I want to get my work done. I want to access whatever. If a HR message comes through, let me check it out. Not even thinking that it might be a malicious message and so forth. And then IT operations, really, really important. The use case for that is actually one of the main use cases. where IT ops can really see what's happening and make sure that they run a tight shift, and have control of what is happening, and don't regularly get surprised by certain things. Yes, you'll get surprises sometimes, but the surprise might be anticipated, or it might be something that you can really remediate very quickly with automation that we supply as well. So intelligence, how that works, as it says there, real-time analytics and telemetry that's been received. So user data, device data, and also application data. We have application analytics. We got a software development kit that you can put into your commercial applications that you supply to your end users potentially. That will report back and say how many times it's been launched potentially, or does it crash often? What is the breadcrumbs it leaves behind with regard to if it moves from one phase to the second or the next phase in the application? Then also that device data, and all of that data gets then obviously correlated and aggregated into a data lake, and where analytics and custom dashboarding and so forth can be provided, can be pushed out. But it's not just data from your users that we ingest. We also ingest that common vulnerabilities and exposures feed from MITRE, where vulnerabilities are listed regularly on a I would even say a hourly basis, maybe even less. I'm not sure what the cadence is, but really a feed of what is happening with regard to vulnerabilities, exposures. And VMware is not accepted from that, exempt from that. We've also had vulnerabilities in our hypervisor in the past, in some other stuff in our portfolio, and we need to then have it fixed, because there's people out there that actually look to see where they can expose companies like ourselves, Microsoft, Oracle, and so forth as well, because of, I don't know, that's just the way they want to do it. But also, not just that vulnerability feed that we bring in, we also have a huge partner network, trust network partners that we have out there. Things that we integrate out of the box immediately is things like Carbon Black, Lookout, Netscope, Wandera, Prodeo. We integrate with Zscaler, CrowdStrike, and those type of things, where we integrate in a two-way, via REST APIs, but in a two-way way, both ways. So we integrate into them and they integrate into us. So whatever issues they pick up, they immediately can report back into our data lake, and then we can take action based on that. And they can even via REST APIs kick off certain automations or certain functions. Maybe push down a profile, maybe quarantine a device, tag a device. Enterprise wipe the device if you even have to. Obviously those are extreme scenarios, but that's the type of stuff that really makes organizations feel comfortable with the fact that they've got control over their devices or the users and data out there. And as you can see, it's from asset reporting right through to malicious software, device behavior, compliance status, and these are real-time statistics that's coming back. It's not stuff that runs once a day and maybe you wait 8 hours for it to come back. And if it happens, immediately action gets taken and reported back. So there might be a delay around 2 minutes or so, but not hours, and it's just near real time, if you can put it that way. And that is really important for IT and for organizations to keep tabs and know what's happening in the organization, have control. If you don't have control, you can't really move forward, because you're always going to be on the back foot trying to fight fires, and that really it puts a lot of strain on IT. It puts a lot of strain on IT's agility or ability to actually provide new innovations, because they are always on the back foot. Really important for IT. As you get this, actions and automations then really can be taken immediately or per schedule or whatever, however you decide to do it. Actions by, as I mentioned, by quarantining the device, maybe tagging, and then automations around maybe log a ticket automatically into ServiceNow and send a Slack message to a user or an email to a user and an admin. And automate a move of the device into a different organizational unit within the Workspace ONE management platform that is for quarantine devices. So all those type of things really important for organizations. And the way it works, as I mentioned, just as a different visualization of it, is we bring in all those different feeds, the endpoint analytics, identity analytics, because we obviously supply an identity platform out as well, linking in not the be all and end all for identity, but becoming an identity broker, or performing that identity brokering, or full identity management if you want to, where you can link in other identity sources like Okta, Ping, and Azure AD and so forth. And offload to Azure AD if you need to, and come back again, and make use of their multi-factor authentication and come back. But all of those feeds coming back into this Workspace ONE Intelligence, so that we can aggregate the data, correlate it, have insights of what's happening, and do that powerful automation, providing custom dashboarding based on various data points, custom reporting. And by the way, the custom reporting is available in all the editions. It's not just in the enterprise edition. So that is really important as well. So you can have really granular reporting based on things like we call sensors, where a PowerShell script will run and put a result into a variable, and that variable we call a sensor, and that you can run reports on those and even create dashboards on those. And when you have those dashboards and reports, you can even automate based on those actions. And those notifications, to send out notifications to end users or to staff, admin staff, SOC, the SOC team, all of that, bring this whole thing together so that you can really have an automated engine in the back. And because it's, yes, you can have it on-prem, but the intelligence component is SaaS-based. And you do not have to worry about the database. You do not have to worry about high availability or security or compliance around that, because all of that has got all those tick marks next to it with regard to compliance, certifications, and all kinds of stuff that is in place. One of the big things that we have as part of our intelligence component is the trust network. The trust network, as I mentioned, is those external partners, best of breed companies out there that we actually partner with, that will run specific stuff or gather specific information or get specific data, and then we have that relationship with them, so that we can try and break down those silos that's in organizations, where the security guys are separate and they always the guys that's as seen as, listen, we are the guys that make the decisions. Bring them into the mix. So that you can have a productive discussion and a productive environment where they work together instead of having those silos, and have that predictive security. A lot of one of our security components that we have is Carbon Black, and it really changed the way that security is handled on Windows and Mac and Linux devices, where it's, and even Pradeo and Zamperian does the same, very similar on the mobile devices, is where it's action based. So it's not something that sits there and scans a device, takes a lot of your resources and really slows down the device and causes issues. And now you have to worry about exclusions and this and exclusions and that and files that should not be touched. Where this is sort of looking at behavior of a user and of a device. Maybe PowerShell script gets kicked off via a Excel spreadsheet, and a PowerShell script, most companies use it, so you won't see that as an issue. But that PowerShell script might be then, inserting a registry entry to run once to reset the password. Those are the type of things, techniques, tactics, and procedures that TTPs that hackers use, and that cyber attacks get based on. It's not the file. Yes, the files are there as well with the malicious software, but you might get a zero-day exploit where you don't know about that file. But that file, as soon as it initiates some process, those other things will get picked up, and that's predictable security, because now you can say, well, we know what is happening in our organization with regard to PowerShell scripts and so forth. These things are out of the anomalies. These things are not supposed to be there. And then you can drill down and do a real deep dive around that as well. And our open ecosystem that we have out there, we believe in not forcing down specific things down solutions down a customer's throat. If they want to use stuff that they're already invested in, that ecosystem is quite large, where they can integrate into this, and let's work together with regard to that and make sure that you reduce the cost around too many different systems out there, but reduce the cost to try and get just the best of breed in your organization, and then have the rest being done by Workspace ONE. So if we just look at one or two dashboards around, just as an example of what intelligence can provide, and there's a lot more than this. I would spend a whole day if I have to show dashboards and stuff. Not that it's not that I want to make out that it's very complex. It's actually quite straightforward, but you can do so much with it. You can decide what you want to do. And this example, for example, is in device adoption and performance, to see what is the adoption of desktops, out there with regard to the storage that they use. What is the physical memory that is typically been implemented? Various other things around what is the patch level, what is the OS level, and how does it perform with regard to CPU and so forth as well. If you can, if you get metrics like that back, and also the battery life. Potentially, you can report back on battery life if there's an issue with regard to maybe a couple of devices, or maybe a set of a group of devices that's been provided out to the end users, and they have a bad batch from a battery point of view, and not just a bad batch of battery, but also maybe here and there you'll find that there are users that's having issues with hardware as well, and that can be picked up as well, especially around our Dell integration. There's a lot of stuff we do with Dell, and yes, HP and Lenovo as well, but obviously we're part of Dell Technologies at this stage, so there's a lot that's been provided into via that as well. Not that we're agnostic around that, it's just that we do have some extra stuff around that. If you look at vulnerability management, because of that CVE feed that we had, if I can just quickly briefly go through a sequence where it's quite straightforward on the screen, is the feed will pick up a vulnerability, intelligence will identify that vulnerability, and it will see, is it a high risk vulnerability, because the score will be available via the CVE feed. It could be a 7.9 or 7.3 upwards to 10, which is a critical issue, or even a 9 or 10, which is a critical issue. It will identify, okay, this is automation that needs to be kicked off because of that critical score. It triggers that automation based on various things that needs to be applied, needs to be taken away, enforced. And then when the device is back safe again after the remediation has been done, either by Carbon Black or by some other tool, or even by our patching component, then the device is back up again safe, and the automation will be reversed, and it will be back to the continuous monitoring of that. And this is the process that will happen continuously around various data points, not just OS patching, not just the CVE feed, but also around the application analytics, identity, and the other feeds that I mentioned that comes into this intelligence component. Assess user risk, to identify what is the risk that the users provide, that's out there. For example, is there questionable apps on the device where the user maybe downloads some applications that is questionable, that we all find it on Android, maybe, and on iOS is a little bit more strict, but on Android there's always, and now recently with a good couple again as well, with some malware embedded in the applications. Although they get scanned and they do have procedures in place, it still happens, and you can check for those questionable apps specifically around the devices that is being managed by your organization. Obviously, in a BYOD or bring your own device scenario, you'll protect only that component that is in that container that is on the device for the end user. But his own personal stuff will not be checked, but you can isolate that container and accessing to data that it doesn't speak to the personal stuff, and the personal stuff can't speak into the container side of things, and really then you do not have to worry about it. But when you manage a device, especially Windows and so forth, you can check what's happening. Is it up to date from an OS patching point of view, as well as are there any other security capabilities that's been disabled? Maybe turning off the firewall, or removing some sensor, or some agent that is needed there, and all of that stuff then can contribute to that identifying of that user risk, because you get users that play around, you get users that, especially the younger generation, grew up with technology. They know how to turn off things. They know how to try and get around a security restriction that's been put in place. So those are the type of things you want to know about. Not always to say that it's bad, but in 90% of the time it is bad. And then that risk score, then you can check, is it low, is it high per user, and then you can also, based on that risk score, you can also allow them access to applications or disallow them access to their workspace. Maybe quarantine the device, and in cases where you really want to be nasty, if I can put it that way, or not nasty, but really want to enforce something, you're going to enterprise wipe the device, which in that case is only removing your data off the device, the company's data, not the user's data. So you don't want to go and delete all the contacts of an exec's phone because he downloaded Angry Birds. Or if Angry Birds still alive, I don't know if that's still something that people use, but for example, that type of thing. So really important to be able to assess that risk score. And then that risk is continuous. As I say, it ingests the data, it identifies, it computes, and it automates around that. It's not something that's once off and it stops and doesn't carry on. Yeah, some of the risk indicators that we look at potentially is, compulsive application download. You get a user that will download 10 or 15 apps within 10 minutes time or 15 minutes time. You'll see that guy's, maybe it's a person's child or someone that got hold of the device and he knows about a couple of applications, you want to rapidly download them. Those are the type of things that you might want to look at. Or potentially it would be something that's been hacked on the device to do that. A laggard with regard to updating his device. They still on an old version of OS. They keep on deferring it. As your policies, try and enforce it, you try and keep on defer it, and then you need to really enforce it. Unusual app download, risky settings, and rare application collections. All those are, and those are some of them, but there's a lot more that typically will feed into the risk score of users to be able to see what the behavior is for that user. And then, the security risk around our ecosystem that feeds back in again to see what threats are out there in your organization based on various data points, policy risks with devices with no password, devices with firewall off, vulnerabilities that's out there from the CVE feed, also from from your trust network partners that's been picked up. All those things get fed into this analytics engine, so that you can really analyze what's happening, get trends, see, well, maybe in August, September, there was a huge spike in vulnerabilities because we downloaded we pushed a new version of a specific application, or a patch was missed or something like that. Then you can get trends, and it's not just real time, but it's also historical as well. So you can go and have a look over a period of time to see what the hell is happening, and is it out of the normal? Is it normal? And then act upon that. And you can dive deeper into the risk as well. I mean, you can go and see why was this user seen as a high risk user, because the rare app collector actually seen that there's more unusual apps on the device, for example. I know it might be very small on your screen, but those are the type of things you can drill in and see why the user's got it. And EP Phone's help desk can say, well, why is my risk score not well? Or why do I have to put in every time two-factor authentication? Then at least they can say, it's because you have this X, Y, and Z tendency or issue on your device or in your behavior, and can feed back to the user. And then, the digital employee experience management that I spoke about earlier as well is, we want to see what is happening with the key performance indicators on the device. How many times it crashed? Is there blue screens or this the startup time? Various things, and not just around Windows devices, but across Android, iOS, Mac OS, all those devices. Because I mean, there are users that's using different devices other than Windows as well. And then get that real-time visibility, and it's also great to then do root cause analysis, because now you can see, well, a specific Dell device or HP device model keeps on trapping with the audio driver because of this application that we downloaded or this setting that we've done. That really makes it easy for IT to do root cause analysis around this as well, and not thumbsuck and say, well, and it takes a long time to be able to find out, and also predict potential issues as well, because we see that this keeps on trapping. Now you can predict that there will be a larger issue in your end user base, and then design and automate the fix, because you got that information, you got all that insights, easy to then. Well, it's easier than said, I suppose, but it's much easier than to design and automate a fix for that issue. What makes Team special, our key differentiators, is it's across platform analytics. It's not just Windows, so it's all around the different platforms out there, and it gives deeper insights because of the fact that we have also insight into the identity and access component, as well as the device unified endpoint management solution. And then, robust remediation automation, as I mentioned, as it says on the screen there. You really can automate and make sure you have a predictable outcome from your automation, because it runs the same thing every time. It doesn't miss a step. It doesn't skip something. You know that the result is going to be always very much predictable to the end user and to IT. Last portion I just want to mention before this, my second last slide, is just the automations. I spoke a lot about the automations, and because we integrate with our trust network as well as our identity sources and so forth, we can bring all those components together to sort of automate stuff, automate a patch, automate creating a ticket in ServiceNow, a Slack message, patch a device. Specifically if it's just a vulnerability, but if it's a bigger issue, then you can have a sequence of events to be automated. Push a profile, tag the device, and so forth as well. So really effective around enforcing compliance and ensuring that you have everything under control most of the time. Because I know we don't have it all the time under control, but if you can have a 99% or a 98% control success rate, I believe that is really good, maybe even higher than that. So last slide, take your digital workspace to the next level with our Workspace One platform. From the security capabilities to the rich ecosystem that we have there, it's a single vendor. From our point of view, so you do have integrations with other solutions, but it's a single vendor that you need to contact. You don't have to worry about, oh no, it's not integrating into this identity management system. Oh, it's not integrating with that or this device management. Everything gets integrated and worked on with one vendor, one throat to choke. Really makes it easy for troubleshooting, makes it easy for support ticket resolution. And even for IT to be able to act on it as well. It's a complete digital workspace integration, from application delivery to application to multi-factor sign-on, cross-platform, really important. And then obviously we also have that mobile application analytics as well to provide that functionality of the business or the functionality to the mobile business of the organization as well. Really important, really fantastic. We use it really to the deepest level in our use case in VMware itself, and we have other customers. Example, Rentokil. I know that they've been speaking to at some of our events around. They also now starting to more use more utilize the analytics a lot more, and they get a real great benefit out of that. Just as a customer that I suppose people would know in South Africa as well. They're not a purely South African. They got a leg in South Africa, but they are I think it's a Euro-based customer. And with that, I would like to thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. I hope it was insightful. I hope all the analytical minds actually got prickled there, and that you can automate your lives a little bit better and be more on the golf course or on the beach or wherever you need, what your preference is from an IT point of view, and instead of getting stuck at the office on weekends, after hours, long hours. Thank you very much. Thanks, Feroz. Thank you for the ability to present to this.
Thank you, Terry. That was really quite interesting. I mean, you covered a lot of things there in terms of security, user experience, the digital integration. I think what comes home strongly is the customized reporting and dashboards. And that leads to another point on my side that I picked up, is you mentioned earlier on, and you keep using the word older generation, younger generation. Maybe go with Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen Alpha. Okay, you're on mute, Terry, I think. So
I suppose that's a better way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's probably the PC way to go with it, right? The politically correct way to go with it. But remember, all of them have Google as their best friend. So
True.
And that's the common thing, because my kids who's quite old, not old, is adults now, will come to me and say, Dad, I had this problem and I Googled it and I tried to fix it. And either they got it right or they broke something.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you're alluding to there earlier, is that users have this ability to mess with things at times, and then it stops working, and then you wonder why. And you're able to pick that up through the solution as well. So that is quite a bit of stuff you've exposed there. So perhaps I should ask the audience first if anybody's got any questions for Terry. I mean, Terry covered a lot of content, and maybe one of you have got an experience that you want to share with us, or you've got a question you want to share with us. So while the audience is contemplating that, you've covered quite a bit about tracking of OS upgrades as well, in terms of being able to have visibility in terms of where you are on your, I mean, use the word fleet of devices in organizations. Where's the OS? What's your Windows 10 status with regards to patches and updates? I wonder if the audience can tell us how they do it currently. I mean, some of you have got small sites meaning 100, 200 devices, and some of you go into the thousands perhaps. And how do you manage your tracking of your OS upgrades? You know, do you do it manually? Do you not care? Do you leave it to a Windows SaaS server? Perhaps you can share some insight with us on that. Any volunteers? Okay, well, while the audience mulls over that, maybe they're not eager to speak. Maybe they need another cup of coffee. I don't know. Anyway, the other thing you spoke about is something I learned about this week, which is your common vulnerabilities in exposure feed, CVE, which is quite interesting. And the foundation of that obviously is that somebody out there, this organization, monitors and tracks vulnerabilities around applications, operating systems, and various other items, and then feeds that back. And I think the big question to customers today is, how do you keep your environment up to date with the CVE vulnerabilities? You know, how do you do it? And I think you've illustrated quite nicely how you do it within Workspace One, because you've got the tools in there that can keep it up to date. But it's quite interesting to try and understand how customers do that at the moment. Do they do it manually? Don't they do it? Do they just hit, upgrade or update patches? But we're not only about OS here, we're talking about applications as well. So I don't know if the audience has got any input for us there. I did see a statement there from Devet. Hi, Devet. Thank you for your response. He said they use ESET to protect on what is we use ESET protect to report on most of the functionality. Okay, so that's from an ESET point of view, which covers really the security component from an update. Well, addresses part of the vulnerabilities perhaps. Rob Gunning has put a response in here. Let's see. Hi, Rob. Mostly manual, but apps are centralized. So they've got thin clients they use, I think, in the environment, which means that it's easier to manage. So it's interesting to see how customers use different environments, to manage or different tool sets to manage the environments. A question for you, Terry. Compliance is such a big word. I mean, one can't get away without mentioning the word security and without mentioning the word compliance in a conversation today. How does this tool set help manage compliance data or report on the compliance data, to a management layer? Because that's really the management wants to see what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from a compliance point of view, once again, the patching is one of the features that we could look at from a compliance point of view, but also compliant regarding devices, regarding applications out there. Are those devices, the workforce compliant with regard to the various things that they need to access into the organization? Do they comply with the passcode length, for example, or do they have devices that's not encrypted or encrypted or not? Are there any blacklisted applications potentially being used? Various components that can feed into the compliance engine of this Workspace One platform that can be reported on and can be reported on, escalated, and continuously monitored as well.
Okay, nice, thank you. Yeah, that covers quite a bit of topics there. So Terry, you've shared a lot with us. I don't know if the audience have got any other questions. It's a bit of a quiet audience this morning. We've had some feedback. Are there any questions for Terry before we wrap up? Okay, it doesn't look like it. So Terry, I want to say thank you very much to you for the series of sessions that you've run with us around EUC and the tool set that it encompasses and the usability of the technology solution set. So thank you for that. Thank you to VMware for sponsoring the sessions, and Jolene for managing them as well. And thank you to the audience for attending. I hope you got value from it, and we look forward to see you in future workshops again.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.